Today we're going to discuss the issues between Israel and Palestine and what that nation and those two nations actually look like today. We're going to start with going back to the whole Zionism movement. It's a movement that started in the late 1900s by Jews who wanted to regain their homeland, and that was their main goal with the Zionist movement. It's going to, you'll see some Middle Easterns, you'll see Americans, you'll see European Jews, but it's Jews believing that they can reclaim and they had a right to reclaim their homeland. Keep in mind, there are already people living in their homeland of Israel. So that is the current, that was the current nation of Turkey at that point, or the Ottoman Empire. So that's what we're talking about at this point. At the end of World War I, the Ottoman Empire, as we talked about several months ago, it was nicknamed the sick man of Europe. And so at the end of World War I, it got dissolved. And so it got turned into mandates, basically into three different areas that were controlled by the Russians, the British, and the French. And I'll show you that on a map in a minute. And Palestine at the end of World War I, which includes the nation of Israel, was a British mandate. It was controlled by the British government. At the end of World War II, what we found was a lot of people around the world really felt kind of a guilt from the Holocaust and a calling to give the Jews a homeland, a place that would be their own. And so you saw a lot of followings with that. And so you see tons of Jews actually immigrating to Israel, which wasn't even a nation at that point, but to Palestine at the end of World War II. Some of them, a lot of them Holocaust survivors, just looking for a place that they would feel like they belonged. And so you saw a huge number there. One of the first things that the United Nations really does, and it's one of the first true tests of can the United Nations do what it says it is supposed to do, is to partitions that region, that mandate of Palestine into two nations. They make it into a Jewish and an Arab state, and that was officially made happen on May 14th, 1948. The problem was almost initially when this partition happened and you see these two nations, that we see almost immediately they get attacked. Israel gets attacked by their neighbors, by obviously the Palestinians themselves, the Arab Palestinians. You'll see those from Jordan, from Egypt, from Syria, from Iraq. You'll see people coming from all over, the Arab troops invading Israel. And to everyone's surprise, Israel actually won that war. A big reason why they won is they had the help of the United States. Not initially, but you will see that happening later on and coming into play. So let's take a look at the map. As I talked about before, at the end of World War I, they're going to divide up. This is the old Ottoman Empire. They're going to divide it up into three mandates. This is the mandate we're talking about right here, the British mandate. This is current day Iraq. If we go all the way over here, this is the nation of Israel. We have Jordan, Syria, several other nations that are actually surrounding it here, but they were under British control at the end of World War I, and you can see why Britain and the United Nations are going to set aside that area right there for the Jewish homeland. So here's their great plan, is at the end of World War II, once they start realizing this, the United Nations decides to take that territory, and this is a very small nation, about the size of New Jersey. They're going to take the area of Palestine and they're going to divide it into two states. Everything you see here in yellow, as you follow the mouse, that is supposed to be the Arab Muslim state. Everything in orange is the Jewish state. Do you see any problems? I see quite a few. You can see how this is just basically a hot mess, really and truly. Jerusalem itself, the United Nations was supposed to stay in there and administer justice and make sure there was peace there. But keep in mind, this is inside the Arab state of Palestine. This was originally a two-nation theory, kind of if we go back to what was going on between Pakistan and India, where they created two nations. That's kind of what was supposed to happen here, but much more jagged and a much more difficult thing to actually make happen and keep happening. So I just wanted to do this. This is kind of interesting. This goes through the Middle East through the years, and so I thought we would watch this. And so it's going to start at 3000 BCE with the Kingdom of Egypt, and then we'll see the nation of Israel getting created and coming onto the map, and it'll go all the way to 2006. This is the ancient kingdom of Israel. Israel gets captured by the Babylonians, which is what you were seeing there. That's Alexander the Great's empire. Then this will be Rome. So you should be seeing here is Israel hasn't actually been a Jewish state since 70 AD or 70 CE, so it's been quite a while since Israel was actually a Jewish nation. The caliphates, remember this, going back to our Muslim unit back from first semester? During the Crusades, they're going to take over Jerusalem, the Christians. Muslims gaining back control. That'll be the Mongols coming in. The Ottoman Empire, and again, this takes us all the way to World War I. State of Israel, again, you see the jaggedness of that. The Six-Day War, obviously, a very short war, hence the name. It's between Israel and Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. They are attacked on almost all sides. So if we take a look at our maps down here at the bottom, we see, again, everything in this kind of a orangey yellow color. This is Israel before the Six-Day War. Israel, surprisingly, again, is going to defeat all of their neighbors. This is a preemptive war. They find out that Egypt, Syria, and Jordan are about to attack them, and so they will attack first. They have a massive, massive gain. They more than double and almost triple the size of Israel as a result of this. You're going to notice they're going to gain the western bank, that is the west bank of the Jordan River. They're going to gain all this territory that used to be controlled by Palestine. They're going to control this up here, the Golan Heights, which used to be controlled by Syria. And this huge strip of land, again, this is still a small country, but the Sinai Peninsula, so they're going to control everything on this side of the Suez Canal that they gained from Egypt. As a result of this war, you're going to see, number one, you're going to see a lot of Jewish pride. I know a man who was raised Orthodox Jew, and he said he remembers he was in high school when this war happened, and he was so proud to be Jewish that he immigrated to Israel and joined the army. Pretty prevalent kind of ideology for Jews at the time period, especially since it was such a massive victory and they were surrounded by their neighbors that really had a history of hating them. So same thing, you're going to see a similar map here of all the territory that they're going to gain. In 1973, we call this the Yom Kippur War or the 1973 War. This time, their Arab neighbors will attack Israel first. It's interesting, this is actually going to be a Cold War war. We call this a proxy war. The United States and the Soviet Union will help out their allies. Our ally throughout all of this has been the nation of Israel. So we see Israel is really everything up here. And Egypt was helped by the Soviet Union. This is one of the hot spots of the Cold War, where the Cold War almost turns into a hot war. Mainly what we're really giving them on both sides is aid. In the end, Anwar Sadat, the Egyptian leader, will end the hostilities with Israel. Pretty much an indecisive war. The only thing you really want to see that they gained, that was gained or lost, is this red area right here, is that officially now Egypt will control both sides of the Suez Canal. That's very, very important after, just to know that is a pretty important thing that happens after this war. So again, we see attack on two sides. You see it up here on the Suez Canal area, and you also see it in Golan Heights, that Syria area. The last thing we're going to look at today is the Camp David Accords. In 1979, Egypt becomes the first nation to recognize Israel as a state. This is an extremely big deal. Their Arab neighbors did not like this. They did not think this was something that needed to happen. Anwar Sadat was criticized. This was 14 months in the making. This is Jimmy Carter, one of his shining moments. That's President Jimmy Carter there at the center, an American president. This was his main goal, and I've heard him talk about how difficult it was to get these two men to make peace, because historically these two nations and even these two religions, the Muslims and the Jews, just historically have not gotten along there. Both Anwar Sadat, and the Israeli Prime Minister, they will get the Nobel Peace Prize for this. Anwar Sadat will actually be killed the next year. He'll be assassinated by one of his own people for they thought that he was siding too much with the Israelites and that he was backing down from their normal stance. So that is the issues between Israel and Palestine. I hope that makes sense. A lot more things happen after 1979. Those are just some of the big things as to what's going on from 1948 all the way to 1979. Thanks, guys.